We're not here for performance. We're here for awareness. We're here for healing. We're here for restoration. We're here for transformation.
Peace and blessings, my beautiful people. To real life, a home has no vision. Real love is what you protect. This is my path. This is my calling. This is my legacy in motion.
Put your hands together for Dr. Maxaline Nyembi. She is going to talk about domestic violence.
Before I go any further, I want to pause and acknowledge something important. Your presence here is not a small matter. The fact that you showed up for this conversation is already an act of courage. Because domestic violence is one of those issues that strike in silence and in secrecy and loses power the moment it walks into a room. And I want to ground this moment with numbers and statistics. Because statistics have a way to awaken the part of us that's often asleep. You see, globally, 1 in 3 women, that's approximately 840 million women, have been affected by sexual and partner violence in their lifetime. And behind these numbers, behind the statistics, is a name, is a face, is a mother, is a daughter, is a son, is a dream, is a destiny. And so today, we're not here for performance. We're here for awareness. We're here for healing. We're here for restoration. We're here for transformation. But first, I want to pause and take this opportunity to honor the leadership of women. Women who have the courage to champion this endeavor and bring light into places that have been dark for far too long. And I also want to use this opportunity to honor our beautiful, powerful, phenomenal sister, friend, and author, Miss Annick Fotsi. Experience surviving domestic violence and facing multiple business failure and challenges. Yes, she rises again and again and never gives up. You see, these are the women who have the courage to rise and speak up for themselves, as well as for other women and for men and boys who can. And I also like to use this opportunity to honor the presence of men who are here present, men around the world, who really in a multicultural sense are standing up and speaking against men's violence against women. And I'm willing to go into part of the culture that have historically been apathetical, even silent or hostile to women's effort to engage that. But the truth is that if we have to end this or to prevent this in any way, we really need more men standing with women and not against them, to speak up against this pervasive, systematic social problem that is wreaking so much havoc in our society, in our world, and in our communities. We owe this to our women, we owe this to our sons, we really owe this to young boys who are growing up around the world in cultures that tells them that manhood is a certain way: dominance, control, entitlement, and power at all costs. Today, I stand in honor of survivors, those who have been able to share their stories, those who never have the opportunity to. Today, I also stand in honor of silenced victims, those who smile in public but yet live in private. And on a more personal level, I want to stand in honor of my beautiful, powerful, phenomenal sister, my baby sister, my blood sister, Vera, who had the courage to leave her abusive husband after 5 years of marriage and having 4 beautiful sons back to back. Pregnancy used as one of the mechanisms of control, power, and of dominance. So when I speak about this, I'm not just talking about the concept, I'm talking about the reality that is affecting our families, our communities, our society, and our bloodline. So today I'm not just here to tell you that domestic violence is wrong. I know you know that domestic violence is wrong. My message today is that we need a paradigm shift, a shift in perspective, a shift in consciousness. We need to approach this with a framework, but in our thinking, in our approach, how we approach this, because domestic violence has really been framed as a woman's thing that a few good men help out with. But I want to argue today that domestic violence is a woman's issue, it's a man's issue, it's a societal issue, it's a leadership issue. Calling domestic violence a woman's issue has been part of the problem for far too long. Because many a times when men hear women's issue, they automatically tune out and be like, oh, that's women's business, it's none of my business. But if we have to prevent this in any way, we have to redefine this to be seen as women's issue as well as men's issue. Now, I also want to shift to something that sometimes people do so unconsciously, victim blaming. Sometimes you hear people say, oh, why can't she just leave? Why can't he or she keeps going back? We see asking this type of question doesn't get us anywhere. It actually places the microscope on the victim rather than on the perpetrator or the society or the culture that enables this. We need to ask empowering questions such as why is domestic violence still an issue in our society, in our community, and in our world? Because it's not just about individual perpetrators. It will be a naive way of understanding what is much more deeper rooted issue. Because these are not just individual perpetrators that emerge from graveyard like monsters. These are normal looking people just like you and me, who sit in pews, lead organizations, look as good people. So we can see in real time what is really happening in Afghanistan, where the Taliban have legalized domestic violence. So when laws normalize hate, silence becomes even more dangerous, and community awareness becomes very necessary. Now, I would like to initiate or introduce a framework that was actually initiated by Jackson Gates and his colleague called the bystander approach to domestic violence prevention. And the bystander is neither the perpetrator nor the victim. So that means me, that means you, that means our families, our friends, our neighbors, our colleagues. And the basic premise is that if you see something, say something, do something. Because if you don't speak up, isn't silence a form of consent or complacency? Now, I don't like to stand in front of people and sometimes act as if life has been perfect, right? I have been an entrepreneur for many years, for many decades, running multiple businesses with my husband. My beloved husband, Mr. Nyambisi, right there. Can you wave in hand? And we're actually in one of our businesses right now, the Hampton Conference Center. And this year, we mark 20 years of the Hampton Conference Center. 20 years. 20 years of building, 20 years of serving, 20 years of creating jobs, 20 years of hosting families and welcoming communities. But I'll tell you this, entrepreneurship is not as glamorous as most people like to think or believe. It's filled with trials and tribulations, seasons where you will feel pressure, seasons where you feel stretched, seasons where you feel misunderstood, and seasons where you will have to rebuild and rebrand and rise again and again. But I tell you this, throughout each of those seasons that I've been through, I've always used it as an opportunity to learn, to grow, to innovate, to evolve. But I tell you this, there are 5 principles that have actually helped me through each of the seasons. And that is commitment, consistency, intentionality, mentorship, and God's grace. And you ask, why do I bring this in a domestic violence speech? Because you see, the same principles that are needed to build legacy is the same principles needed for the community to bring salesperson patterns. Because it would take commitment to consistency in speaking up, intentionality in how we raise our sons and daughters, and mentorship, because this type of pain cannot be navigated alone. And of course, God's grace, because healing is a process. You see, domestic violence have a way to reduce that which is possible. It shrinks confidence, silence, destiny, distorts love. And so what our mission, it has to be to expand again that which is possible through structure, through stability. And one thing I've come to understand is that if you have the structure and you have the system in place, people begin to feel safe and they begin to feel more secure. Because you see, domestic violence is not easy for the victim to just leave. If we think about it, it involves finances, it involves children, it involves housing, it involves immigration, it involves community stigma, spiritual manipulation, and trauma bonding. So we don't ask, why don't you leave? We ask, how can we help you feel safe? We ask, do you have a plan? We ask, who can we call? And to any Everybody sitting right here listening to me, man or woman, feeling fearful behind closed doors, please know that you're not alone. You're not weak, you're not crazy, you're not responsible for someone's violence or insecurity. You deserve love, you deserve safety, you deserve to be treated with dignity. And to every perpetrator out there, this is not condemnation without hope. This is a call for accountability. Get the help that you need and learn what you have been taught and feel what makes you believe that violence, that love is violence, that love is dominance. And friends, family, I'll end this by saying that let it be said of our generation that we did not just protected reputation more than we protected people, that we did not just pray and stay silent, but we prayed and spoke, that we did not watch bruises become funerals, but we became the interrupters and interruptions. And to every victim out there who survived, please know that you're not a situation, you're not a circumstance, you are your destiny. And to everybody, please remember that your voice have power. And again, to every perpetrator, love is not violence. Love is not violence. Love. Together.